Hey everybody, it's Chuck Garfien. Welcome back to the podcast. And spring training starts in less than a month. Pitchers and catchers report to Glendale on February the 12th. And I'm guessing you're wondering, what kind of team, what kind of season should you be expecting? Should we be expecting? The White Sox made a lot of roster moves this year, believe it or not, this offseason. But other than the Garrett Crochet trade, none of them have been splashy. And with Yoel Moncada, Eloy Jimenez, and even Leury Garcia finally off the books, their projected 26-man opening day payroll is about half of what it was last year. So you might be asking yourself this question: how are the White Sox going to be better? They lost 121 games last year, and they cut their payroll in half. Well, fortunately, I'm here to provide answers. And I've got MLB.com's Anthony Castrovince back on the podcast to help explain what happened last year, why the White Sox lost 121 games, and also why the White Sox will be better in 2025, and how much better. What kind of turnaround can this team make? That is coming up. Here we go. All right, joining me on the podcast, he's back on the podcast, Anthony Castrovince. You'll see him on MLB Network. He writes for MLB.com. How are you doing, Anthony? I've missed you. It's been a long time.
I know, it's been a bit, Chuck. We haven't had any Springsteen shows to talk about recently, so our relationship kind of goes on the back burner for a while. But baseball's starting up, and we're roaring again. Let's do it.
We're doing it. And, you are from Cleveland. You live in Cleveland. You've been kind of driving the Cleveland Spiders beat for a long time. You wanted the Guardians to, when they were the Indians, you were considering, hey, they should be called the Cleveland Spiders. I'm like, who the heck are the Cleveland Spiders? Oh my God, they're terrible. I never want to even have to talk about this team. And all of a sudden, all last season, I'm comparing the White Sox to the 1899 Cleveland Spiders, who went 20-134 and the worst team in the history of mankind. So thank you for introducing me to the Spiders. I never want to talk about them again.
Well, now you know. Now you're more familiar with Sport McAllister and Aussie Schrenkengast, right? That was one of the names, I think. So there's a lot of fun names on that team, if nothing else. And yeah, big Spiders fan for sure.
Yeah, but let's put this in perspective. And we're going to put a lot of things in perspective on this podcast. The Cleveland Spiders had a run differential of minus 723. The White Sox of 2024 had a run differential of minus 306. So the White Sox were twice as good as the Spiders. Twice as good as the Spiders.
Yeah,
never
let's
came
get that
close
on the
to
record.
being as bad as they were.
I've always been a defender of the 1899 Cleveland Spiders. I think they get a bad rap. So like locally here, when the Indians announced they're changing our name and considering options, Spiders leapt to the forefront in a lot of people's minds, myself included. And then the pushback on that was, well, I mean, they did win the first championship in Cleveland sports history. People forget that. They won the Temple Cup, the precursor to the World Series. But everyone associates them with the worst team ever. And I would try to educate people because it's not fair when your owner owns another team and sends all your best players to that team, and then you play something stupid like 80% of your games on the road. I mean, those two factors, the Spiders had no chance. So I think they deserve an asterisk. And I'm sorry, but yeah, the White Sox run differential significantly better, but the White Sox are a major league team in the year of our Lord 2024. They had more resources at their disposal. So they are the worst team, in my opinion.
I'm putting an asterisk forever with the 2024 White Sox. I have to. It's an outlier season. We're never going to have this season again, anything close to it. And I'm going to explain why that happened. And, eventually we're going to get to why we think, or at least I'm going to look into why the White Sox will be better. I don't even know your opinion yet. If you think they're going to be better in 2025, we're going to discuss it. But I'm going to ask you this. I'll just start with this. When you are a team and you are leading in a game, you have a lead in a game, how often do you think the team that is leading wins that game?
I'm going to say 70-something%, something like that.
Yes, usually I would say 75% of the time.
Yeah.
Well, the White Sox lost 121 games, as we know. You want to guess how many games they had a lead in those games?
Well, that's the thing is it's like a small sample we're probably working with, hence you get an outlier stat. So how many times they have a lead in a 162 game season where they lost 121 games? I'm going to say they had a lead 52 times.
You were close. They had a lead in 56. So almost half.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
They lost 56 games where they held a lead. Now, when you score first, you usually end up winning. 46 games, they scored first and lost.
Wow. We're going to be talking about that team for a very long time. Do you realize that? I mean, I know it was brutal. I know it was brutal for White Sox fans. I know it was brutal for you and everyone around and associated with that team. And it doesn't take the sting away. But just know that had that been a traditionally bad team instead of a historically bad team, I think it's almost worse. I think you achieved something last year that no boring 500 team, who remembers some Reds team from 2008 or something that finished around 500. No one talks about that. This team will be referenced for the rest of baseball time. So be proud.
Thank you very much.
You could say
I
was
don't know
there.
If that's even is that putting salt on a wound?
No,
is it digging up the grave?
You'll come to appreciate it. You'll come to appreciate it years from now. You really will, because you think about, like, I'm looking on my bookshelf. Somewhere on my bookshelf, I've got the book about the 62 Mets. So there's a book to be written about the 24 White Sox to be on someone's shelf for years.
I ain't writing it. I'll just do podcasts about it. I'll just leave it at that. So they had a lead. They had a lot of leads. They lost 23 games when leading after 6 innings.
Holy cow.
Look at that. 23 times they lost. And you're probably wondering, everyone listening, like, why is Chuck bringing up all these stats? Like, they led the majors with 37 blown saves, 6 more than the Red Sox. In the 6th inning or later, they were outscored 364-208.
Good Lord.
But then I'm going to throw this at you, and this is going to lead me down a path of, like, why I think the White Sox will be better.
Okay.
Of their 121 losses, how many games do you think they lost by 2 runs or less?
Oh, man. I feel like they had some. I live in Cleveland, as you said, and I've seen all the ways the Browns have invented ways to lose, through the years. It's maybe the most entertaining franchise in sports. And I saw a little bit of that with the White Sox last year, where, games slipping away in the most goofy ways and botching plays. So I'm going to think that, I don't know, they get like 18 to 20 of those.
They lost 51 games by 2 runs or less.
Oh, wow.
51.
Man.
So, like, in a normal season, you're going to lose maybe 30 by 2 runs or less, right? Or 20. 51.
I was giving them not nearly enough credit. Because I just thought they got blown out a bunch, but they had like some goofy ones that turned it from like 100-loss season to it. But wow, okay. So if I can get ahead of you here, your hypothesis is that just flip half of those, or 15 of those, right? 15. Here's the thing about I know this is obvious. Like, this is the most obvious sports take in the world. But to think that this team could lose 101 games and it would be a 20-game improvement, it just boggles the mind. Like, we're not used to this kind of math in baseball. Like, a 20-win improvement is like incredible. The Royals last year, what was their improvement?
30 games.
30 games. I mean, that was like historic. So a 20-win improvement it's not historic, but it's like, that's a major feat. And it would still be a 101 loss team. That is insane. So yeah, you would think the law of averages, what have you, would be on their side. I get you there. You definitely have something there.
Yeah. So before we even get into the moves that they've made, right? And there've been a lot of them, and there's mostly small moves, but I think those are for this team big because of where they were coming from. Just by, like you said, the law of averages, right? Just by the law of averages, they're probably winning 15 games just on that alone. On that alone. And they have to go out there and play the game, obviously. But when you lose, what was going on with them is their offense was historically bad.
Right.
They also had a lot of crazy things that happened. For instance, okay, Garrett Crochet. I'm going to throw this at you. Like, why do you lose 121 games? You could argue that they will be a better team because they traded Garrett Crochet. And you're like, wait. How can they be a better team because they traded Garrett Crochet? What I mean by that is this. In the first half, he was pitching like a normal pitcher. He was going whatever it took, 5 innings, 6 innings, 7 innings. And he was keeping them in games, and they only needed the bullpen for 3. In his second half, actually more than the second half, from July 1st on, Garrett Crochet never pitched more than 4 innings in any start. So
wow.
what you're doing, like, why does this team lose 121 games? Well, you're trying to get Garrett Crochet traded next offseason, which was this offseason, I should say. So you want to show that he can pitch, all right? And he's healthy. Well, you have Garrett Crochet consistently go 4 innings. Not only are you hurting your team for that game, you've just used your bullpen for 5 innings. You're hurting them for the next game and the next game. And this just goes on and on and on and on and on. There are so many reasons like this as to why the White Sox lost 121 games. They kind of get lost, and that's the reason why.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, they might have a competent rotation this year. Not a good rotation. I was looking at it, and I wouldn't call it good. But I do see the potential for, 5 inning starts, on the regular. And that can be a big difference maker to set up your bullpen. And then the other thing is everyone knows they didn't hit and bullpen stunk, et cetera. But and everyone knows the defense was bad. But to put it into some perspective, I'm looking at this here: defensive runs saved.
Oh no!
I mean, this just doesn't happen. Like, 0 is league average, minus 81 defensive runs saved, minus 81. You just don't. It just doesn't happen. So they will not be a good defensive club this year either. But you mentioned their run differential. This is not exactly how it works. It's not this simple, but you mentioned their run differential was minus 300 something. Like, think if they were an average defensive team last year. I
kept going on that. If they were an average offense.
Think if you shaved 81 runs off of that run differential, roughly. I mean, that would be, again, a bad team, but not a team we're talking about here in early 2025 or for years down the road. Like, the defense is so bad, and that's not something. I don't want to say it's easy to fix. It's not, but it's
fixable.
It's fixable. It's something that, just play competently. You're a major leaguer. Play competently defensively. Be the let's pick a team here. Be as bad as the Pirates were defensively. They were minus 24. They were a bad defensive team, but that is almost 60 runs better defensively. Just be bad. Don't be like, you and me out there trying to field, 110 off the bat. Be just a vaguely competent major leaguer.
And that's my point when I go over the fact that they lost 51 games by 2 runs or less.
Yeah, exactly.
51 or 56. They lost 51. I mean, if you have instead of a just brutal defense, have a below average defense.
Right, exactly. That should be put that on a sign at Camelback Ranch this spring. Just be bad. Don't be historically bad. Just be bad.
All right, and then against the American League Central, our division, the White Sox went 10-42. Mm-hmm. At one point, they lost 18 games in a row in the American League Central.
Yeah.
And they went 23-29 in 2023, and they lost 101 games. All right, so they had 42 losses. How many of the 42 losses were by 3 runs or less?
42 losses. By how many? By 3 runs or less? Well, you said it was, what was the number for 2 or less? Was 50, right?
For the whole season. So this is for 42 losses in the American League Central. How many were
Yeah.
by 3 runs or less?
In the American League Central.
Yeah.
I'm going to say half of those.
26.
Yeah, roughly half, a little more than half.
Well,
Wow.
more than half.
Man.
Well, go ahead.
No, I mean, and that's the thing is like as a longtime AL Central apologist, I didn't know how to feel about the division last year. I thought it was really fun that 3 teams made the playoffs, and I understood the counter to that being, well, the White Sox were in the division, so that's not fair. But then the counter to that is, the schedule is no longer as weighted towards your division as it once was. And the Royals knocked off the Orioles. The Guardians went to the ALCS. So I think they acquitted themselves pretty well. And the Guardians, to get to the ALCS, had to get through the Tigers, who pushed them to 5 games. So I think it was a quality division, like when all is said and done. And so getting back to what you're saying is, yeah, flip a few of those. And then you wonder, will the division be as strong as it was last year? Will those, because the Guardians, this gets in a whole other conversation. The Guardians offseason has been pretty wonky. The Tigers
Twins haven't done anything.
Tigers haven't done anything. Twins haven't done anything. The Tigers signed Gleyber Torres, but they haven't had like a blockbuster winner that their fans hope for. They still don't have much of a rotation beyond Skubal. So, and the Royals, they're going to have to be, they were really strong on the pitching front last year, surprisingly so, and they have to maintain that. That's kind of the theme of their offseason as well. So, it might not be as good of a division this year when all is said and done.
Yeah, and so much of this game is mental and about momentum. And it got to the point where if I was coming into town to face the White Sox, or if the White Sox come into your town, and the Sox had a lead, if I'm the opposition, I'm going, we can come back because look how many games they're blowing. And what are the White Sox thinking? Oh, we have a lead, but look how many games we're blowing.
Right.
And one thing would lead to another. And you got to get that out of your system. And hopefully that is going to happen. Here's the only positive that I can think of from last year for the White Sox. Average time of game. because their offense was so bad, these games were flying. I never thought I would actually, in my lifetime, if I go back 3 years before there was something called a pitch clock in Major League Baseball, I never thought in my life that there would be an average time of game for White Sox games under 2:45. The average time of game for the White Sox in 2024 was 2 hours and 35 minutes. 2:35. Now, were you experiencing that in Cleveland and all around baseball, or was that more of a White Sox thing?
I think that was more of a White Sox. I mean, the average is definitely, lower than it was. Did we tick up last year, or did we stay in line with 20? I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head. But
you did a lot on you wrote some articles on this.
Yeah, but last year we just kind of settled into, okay, this is our new norm. Let me look this up. Now you got me curious because I feel like it was still really good. I feel like early in the year it was. I think we were ahead of. We were a little longer than the year before. No, we ended up lower for a 9-inning game, 3 minutes lower than 2023. So 236 was the major league average.
Oh, so they were average. They were right there.
They were right average, yeah. That's for a 9-inning game. You said that was for overall?
Yeah, overall.
Including extra innings. Yeah. So overall it was 238. So they were a little below average. But yeah, I mean that's what you want, right? If you're gonna lose every game, do it quickly. It could absolutely have gone the other way. Like they could have been above average being a bad team because you have a bad bullpen and games drift longer than they should, et cetera. But no, they kept it nice and tidy. You got to give them that.
And the story that has not been told about the 2024 White Sox, they closed the season winning 2 games in a row and 5 of their last 6. Mm-hmm. They are trending, Anthony. They are trending in the right direction.
They really rallied around that concept of avoiding historic, ineptitude. And it makes you wonder, did nobody tell them earlier? If they had just rallied like that,
they were well aware. They were well aware.
Team. They could have, I mean, they really talk about a last ditch, too little, too late. But they did definitely play better in that last week. You see that sometimes, and teams that are in it sometimes have letdowns against clubs like the White Sox. So Yeah, we can get into that in a minute because that kind of
I was being
points
sarcastic,
toward.
but are you actually saying that's actually true? Like you think that's gonna carry over?
I don't know that is going to carry over, but no, I do have a thought about their early season. I do
Oh, you
for
do.
2025. Yeah,
Okay. Do you want to do it now, or you want to do it later?
yeah. Let's just do it. Let's just get right into it. So you said do you have a bold prediction for the White Sox, and
Yeah, I want a bold
I
prediction.
I did not until you know we started recording. So,
Oh, now you have
and
one.
so, but now I have one. I came up with it while we were talking. So, um, the White Sox will be that team, that random, good April record team. They will have a winning record in March, April.
Whoa!
Yeah. Then the wheels are gonna come off and they're gonna be terrible. But they're gonna be that weird every year. The Pirates, was that 2 years ago, I think? The Pirates were the hot team in April. There's always a team every year, or sometimes multiple, that just, you know, because March and April is such goofy baseball, it's so different. It counts just as much as September, and yet it feels like it shouldn't. There's always a goofy team, and I don't see why it can't be the White Sox. Everybody will be rolling into, the rate and saying, okay, this is, let's just put our equipment out there and win a few, and they're going to have some letdowns. The Angels will be rolling into there for the season opening series. I don't think they're very good. The Twins come to town. They're not very good. You got a tough roadie there, Tigers and Guardians. But again, I don't know if those clubs will be as strong as last year. We'll see. Homestand against the Red Sox and A's. Don't love that. I do think the A's will be better than expected this year. Then you got to go to Boston, then to Minnesota, then to Sacramento to play the A's, and then 2 against the Brewers. I mean, that's not exactly a banger of a schedule. So I could see the White Sox being that club that's like, where did this come from? What is this? Is this real? And the answer, of course, is no, this is not real at all. This is just goofy, cold weather, March, April baseball. And, they might not win another game the rest of the season, but they are going to have a winning record in April.
Well, you know what though? Here's what I like about what you're saying. First off, if they have a winning record in April, I was about to say it could be one of those things where like a local DJ would say, "I will run down Michigan Avenue without any clothes on." I'm not going to do that, but I will be euphoric, and at the very least, it'll set a tone. Okay, set a tone of like, you know what, we can play good baseball, and the White Sox haven't played good baseball in April in what seems like a decade or two. So I hope your prediction comes true, and on top of it, then I hope that the wheels don't come off like you're saying. But there's not a lot of the wheels are a little bumpy. There's not a lot of air in those tires to begin with. So I can see why the wheels would come off because they're just kind of starting over. They're not they are very much starting over. And there's a lot of unknowns about these 1-year guys they brought in, which we can talk about. And a lot of these young kids who are either coming off last year's rookie season or they're going to be brought up from the minor leagues. What can we expect from them? So a lot of question marks, but if they set the right tone in the spring training and they carry that over to April, I could see them being that surprise team and making your bold prediction come true.
I think the big picture with this team, like I'm looking at the 2024 roster right now, and look what they've done this offseason. I don't know, whatever, and what they have coming in the pipeline. We can get in all that, but I do think, having been in a lot of clubhouses, covered a lot of teams, something I do know is real. So last year, whatever hope the White Sox had of being a semi-respectable baseball team was rooted in that idea of Moncada, Jimenez, and Robert all being on the field, right? And the minute that once again was proven to be a pipe dream, that's the storyline. Within 2 weeks, as you're like, oh, here we go again, and that's gone now. I mean, Robert's still there, but that whole scene, that whole theme is gone. That overhang is gone. And it does make it, I've seen it make a difference in clubhouses where the narrative changes a little bit. Now, again, it doesn't make them a good team. You are what you are talent-wise, but I I do think that could be a benefit for them this year, where Moncada turns his ankle. Here we go again.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And then also, I mean, and then the one guy left in there is Robert, and boy, I mean, he's got a lot to play for this year, right? If he wants to go play for a contender, play yourself out of there. But also those option years are looming and starting in 2026. So, if anybody's going to have a bounce back year or should have the motivation to have a bounce back year, there you go.
And another reason why the White Sox lost 121 games and why I think they'll win a lot more, assuming he doesn't get traded, because he could get traded, Luis Robert Jr., but you take the best player on your team, any team in the major leagues, and have that best player miss 62 games with an injury, and in the 100 games that he played, he had 14 homers, 35 RBIs, slugged 379, had an OPS plus of 87, so he's a below average player. Yeah. And he batted first, second, or third in your lineup.
Well, that's not changing.
I mean, they just the answers just keep coming and coming and coming. It's just insane.
Yeah. What happened with him? I mean,
I think I know what happened. I think I know what happened.
You're just in the fun. You're surrounded by.
Well, he's not alpha.
Yeah.
And he, I think, feeds off of the alphas around him, so to speak.
Yeah.
And and there was and he had no protection.
Yeah.
And he's wanting to do good, and pitchers are like, okay, just get him to chase. And he's not taking walks. He has not developed that approach yet to let someone else do the damage if he can't. And I mean, I haven't talked to him about it, but I'm guessing that has something to do with it, because we watched him play, and I didn't even recognize him last season.
Yeah. I'm looking at his number. I mean, chase percentage, whiff percentage, I mean, just horrible. Among the worst in the league, and that's not him, right? When he's at his best.
No. Yeah. But he still chases. When he's at his best, he's still chasing. But
but not.
Not like that.
That's right. Yeah. There's got to be so many teams just would love to get their hands on that guy, but the White Sox can't trade him for what he is worth. That's the problem. Is they need, they need a package there, and he's not worth a package right now. So they just, it's mutually beneficial for everybody if he can just have a strong first half. So, and he's going to have a good April, of course, because they're going to have a winning record, and he's going to be a big part of that.
Okay, so here's another reason why the White Sox will be better. All right. I will guarantee you they'll be better just on this alone, and we've had several other reasons as to why. All right, so the Yankees led the majors in walks last year, 672. I think it was 60 more than the Dodgers, who were second. Don't look, don't cheat. How many walks did the White Sox have as a team? So the Yankees had 672. The White Sox had how many?
Well, no one was pitching around them, I can tell you that. Half as many, 300 something?
395.
395,
You're a great guesser. You are a great guesser. As a team, they had a 278 on base percentage. 278. Now, I'm not trying to just dig up the past and just throw shots at the White Sox from last year. I'm just trying to show this to prove a point and why I think they're going to be better, because the White Sox front office is like, okay, now, if we had the resources and we were ready to win, let's go sign a big name player if we can, who draws walks, on base percentage, that whole thing. Well, the White Sox are not in that position right now. But what they did, if you really look into the moves that they made, this was a humongous key for them. So in the Garrett Crochet trade, they acquired Chase Mydroth, who had in 122 games in AAA last year, 105 walks. So he had almost a third of the walks in 122 games as the entire White Sox team did in the majors. That's a big acquisition. And in 255 games in the minor leagues, Chase Mydroth has a 425 on base percentage. They acquired Mike Tauchman. He's got good plate discipline. Josh Rojas, Austin Slater. These guys who they're going to come to the plate and they're going to make pitchers work.
Kyle Teal's another guy with a decent OBP, if I remember right.
Yeah.
No, it's traffic, man. That's everything. For a team like this, I mean, that's just trying to feel like they're, a part of a game is generating traffic. And when you're not walking, I mean, it's just a bad team. There's always narratives around a team when they're not, when they're scuffling offensively, like they look flat. But it's just like, that's just the game. Like if you're not getting on base, the Yankees will look flat if they just have a game where they're not getting on base. So no, that could change the narrative in a hurry, and that is a good approach by them. I'm glad you pointed that out because I do wonder, like, all right, what are we doing here? Like, what is this? What is the organizational mindset? What is what do they value? We don't really know that yet. It's hard to know. It can take years to really reveal itself, but that is a good starting point. And I was kind of like, hey, what are they doing? Josh Rojas, Mike Tauchman, like last year, Eric Fetty was the perfect kind of acquisition for a team like this, because there's a guy who was, at one time a decent prospect who just didn't pan out at the big league level. He goes over to Korea. He pitches deeper into games. He learns some things about himself. He gets his confidence back, and the White Sox sign him to a reasonable deal, and they're able to flip him. Now, I don't think they did the best job at the trade deadline, but they were able to flip him at the trade deadline. And that's what they should be doing right now. Like if you're going to add guys who are going to take any innings or at bats away from young guys, make it someone like that who can build up some tangible trade value. Like I don't think Josh Rojas and Mike Tauchman and Austin Slater, I don't think those guys are that personally. We'll see, but I think we kind of know what they are at this point. They're more role players, bit players. So I'd rather see the White Sox, take some gambles, maybe a guy coming back from injury or what have you. Somebody who can become something. But I am glad you pointed that out though, because that makes a little more sense. Where all right, let's just generate some traffic and have better vibes in our offensive innings.
And I hear what you're saying, and my take on those signings is that these guys are placeholders.
Yeah.
They offensively, they just don't have guys ready, certainly in the outfield, to come up for the minor leagues and be like, okay, let's give us quality at bats, quality games. They're just not there yet. Pitching wise, oh yeah, they're just bringing them up because there's space for them and they can do the job. Right. And they've proven it. Drew Thorpe and Jonathan Cannon. I mean, a lot of these guys Sean Burke, they came up and oh yeah, they're ready. The Sox don't have that yet. So they're like, okay, who can we find on one-year deals who will give us not just quality games, leadership, right? I mean, keep that culture like that and keep us in ball games.
But hopefully by the second half, you're not seeing a lot of Benintendi, Slater, Tauchman. Hopefully these guys are not getting meaningful at bats in the second half. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And again, and if they're playing well, then obviously they get traded and for more prospects. But I think that's why they did that, because honestly, if they didn't sign these guys, so then you don't want to go too far off. Yeah. You're spending more money for guys who, you might be able to flip, but you may not. Yeah. And is it even worth it?
Well, and also you don't want to go too far down the road of we're playing all the kids from day one, because that can really get out of hand quick, where their confidence can just get battered and that kind of thing. So I get it.
Okay. And speaking of which, we've got the White Sox catching position. So why did the White Sox lose 121 games, and why will they be better next year? Okay. Corey Lee, Martin Maldonado, and Chucky Robinson were the catchers last year for the White Sox.
Yeah.
You want to guess their batting average combined?
Oh, man. Well, the league average is pretty low, so I'm going to think if you're bringing it up, it must be fun. I'm going to say 198, something like that. Something stupid like that.
173.
173.
Do you want to guess the on-base percentage?
Oh, God. They got on base at a 215 clip.
217. Well done.
217.
217. Okay.
Oh, my God.
So they were getting that out of the catcher position. Obviously, you don't get usually great offensive production from your catchers, but you want something more than that. Well, here's what's coming.
Oh, man. Chuck, you should get a raise for watching these games last year. My gosh. 217
You know what, though?
OBP.
We were there. We were there, if not to inform, to entertain.
That's right.
The fan base needed some entertainment, and we were there to provide it.
I watched a lot of your post games. They were they were entertaining for sure. 217 OPP from your catchers. All right, yeah. When's Kyle Teel coming up?
So what's coming? What's coming?
Yeah.
See, this podcast is also to give everybody some hope. So, all right, it's a combo of Edgar Caro and Kyle Teel.
Yeah.
Now, again, do minor league stats translate to major league stats? Usually not, but like they'll be in that direction. They should. I mean, there's also like the Miguel Vargases of the world who are like, what's going on with him in the major leagues? But Edgar Caro had a 360 on base percentage in AA. He goes to AAA last year, and it went up a 382 on base percentage. Yeah. Kyle Teel called up to AAA in August with the Red Sox, struggled originally, and then his final 14 games, they were in September, he slashed 375, 516, 542. There's just enough like on-base momentum with all of these new players that I feel like, you know what, this is going to be a much more competitive team that is going to win a lot more of these close games just on this alone.
Yeah. No, I was glad they got Teel. I know the Red Sox, the deals they were talking about this winter, they were definitely trying to avoid moving him among their three guys, right. Their three top prospects. So the catching position is so hard. It's so hard to quantify. And we still struggle with that, when guys like Salvador Perez or Yadi Molina come to their Hall of Fame cases, it's going to be complicated, but it's such an important position. And so if you can get a guy, if Teel can be that guy long-term that people think he can be, that's huge for them. That's a huge building block.
All right. So you said the Royals improved by 30, or actually I might've said it, but whatever.
They
went from 56 and 106. I mean, 86 and 76. Like that's
crazy.
That's crazy. So if the White Sox were to improve by 30, if they were to do that, they would be 71 and 91. I will not. I mean, you made a bold prediction. I'm not going to make that bold prediction that they're going to improve by 30. I just hope that they can. I mean, this is where we're at. I just hope they can lose less than 100.
Losing 100. I'm telling you, that would be a great season for them. That's the sign at Camelback. Lose 100.
Yeah.
It should be plastered everywhere. Lose 100.
No, lose less than 100. Come on, lose less than 100.
Lose 99. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, you're putting some good stuff out there because I was feeling pretty negative. Not that I do think they will improve their win total. Just just falling into it. I think you could lose 120 or less. But you're putting some things out there that they're making a lot of sense. Flip a few, just flip a few of those close games. Get on base. Those are the seeds of a much different environment. New manager. New blood there. New blood coming up. It's not like they got a bunch of studs waiting to graduate to the big league level, but they have some pieces. And the main thing is just the pitching. The Burks and Schultzes of the world taking a step forward.
Yeah, if Schultz gets to the major leagues, that's a Garrett Crochet type, right? A lefty.
They love that type, right? They love lefties with deception.
6'9", 6'9" left-hander.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to get
2.0 kind of thing, or
What's that?
It's different. It's not Chris Sale. It's he doesn't weigh 100 pounds, but kind of reminiscent of Chris Sale with just lanky or tall and deceptive from the left-hand side. Yeah.
And I got one more reason why the White Sox will be better. So, okay, we're going to go in the weeds on this one, but that's what baseball teams do. And the White Sox hired Walker McKinven away from the Brewers. He's their bench coach, and that's what he does. He's like, okay, what is going on with the game today that is going to give us an advantage? And he's like, I'm not saying he's the only one that does this, but the Sox didn't really have, as far as I can tell, anyone like this. And the Brewers are like, we can't. They were bummed that the White Sox hired him. So you take all these close games. And I'm not going to pin this on like, a coach, he's going to win all these games for them, but that just goes into the equation that they've got a guy like that can help them win a lot of these close games.
Yeah, and that's vital. These guys are athletes preparing every day for 162 games. Analytics have really taken over baseball front offices. We know that, and you drive yourself crazy going down the road of analytics and every minute detail. The best teams are able to break it down into digestible bits, and that can be on a daily basis. There's little, tendencies of the opponent and that sort of thing. And so if you're able to translate that in a meaningful way, but not like an overwhelming way, as a guy like, his head spinning as he's coming to the plate or what have you. I mean, that could be a difference maker. So yeah, he was definitely a big underrated, behind the scenes X factor for the Brewers.
All right. So I'm glad that you've come on the podcast and I have changed your mind. If not changed your mind, I have enlightened you about this White Sox team and the moves that they've made and what is possible. What is possible in 2025?
I'm excited now. I mean, you got me. Between the two of us, we got the White Sox with that winning record in April. Where do I sign up for season tickets? I'm in. Let's go.
All right, I'll get you in touch with Mike Mazza. He's the director of ticketing with the White Sox, and you'll be signing up and joining a whole slew of people coming to the Rate, now called the Rate. Watch some better baseball. Give me better baseball to start with. These are building blocks, right? And I see where they're going, but they got to. There are many phases to this, and we are in the early stages of where the White Sox need to be.
99 would be fine. That's it. I finally settled on that for the placards at Camelback Ranch. 99 would be just fine.
99 would be just fine. That is a 22 game improvement. 22 games. So, because what I like to do is I like to look at seasons. I look at a baseball reference page of a team and you just kind of like see, they did this, followed by this, followed by this. And that's how you do it. Now, there are a lot of teams that we'll lose, like the Astros lost how many times they lose 100 games in 100 game seasons? Like 3 in a row?
I think it was 3 in a row. Yeah. Before they popped. Yeah. No, you got to.
We're looking for the pop. Like, how long is it going to take to pop?
And it's different than it was, there was a time where you talk about 5-year plans in baseball. That doesn't exist anymore. You got guys come up like Paul Skeens is starting the All-Star game a year after he's drafted. That's an extreme example, but we're seeing more of that where guys are up pretty quick. So
Hagen Smith will be up at some point this year.
Yeah, just draft well, trade well, have something you value. The Guardians have done they kind of change things quickly here by valuing contact, and really promoting that in their system, and it kind of changed things for them, faster than people expected. It can happen quick. So 99 would be just fine, and then go from there.
One last thing. I just realized this, and I just want to thank the city of Cleveland for trading Josh Naylor away. What were they thinking? Was it strictly money with him?
It wasn't, weirdly. I mean, money is an overhang with everything they do. Yeah. We know that. But no, because they turned around and spent that same amount of money on Carlos Santana, who is, roughly my age. And I love Carlos Santana.
I do too. I want the White Sox. I actually said to Chris Getz, I go, can you just sign Carlos Santana, please? Like, I'm sick of him beating our brains in. He could be split time at first base, DH. And then I saw, oh my God, he won a Gold Glove last year at first base.
I know.
He's not coming to the White Sox.
No, I love the guy, but who has the lower floor at this point? The 40-year-old Carlos Santana or Josh Naylor? I would have rather spent that money on Naylor, and he has his warts. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, that was an interesting, curious move to say the least. So that's why I don't know, man. This division is It's fascinating.
There for the taking for the White Sox. Josh Naylor's not there. Here come the White Sox.
That's right.
99 would be fine.
There's your motto for the year.
I'm trying to think. 82 would be woohoo. I don't know.
Well, there you go. Yeah. What an opportunity for these young men. You know, it's a very low bar to clear to be a successful team. And
I'm young, no expectations, just play.
Yeah. And hey, it can bring out the best of people. That's for sure.
All right.
No pressure.
Anthony Castrovince here on the podcast. It's always great to see you and see all the Springsteen paraphernalia behind you. It inspires me.
Yeah, we expanded it a little this winter.
Born to Run. Have you seen the Bob Dylan movie yet?
You know what? I was just texting with somebody. I went and saw the Bob Dylan movie, first non-kids movie I've attended in probably more than a decade. And so I really enjoyed it. I did wonder if you had to be, you know, kind of a Dylan nerd to appreciate a good chunk of it. But Timothée Chalamet, in addition to accurately picking my Ohio Bobcats to win the MAC championship on ESPN this winter, also did an incredible job as Bob Dylan, and the woman who played Joan Baez was every bit as good. She was fantastic. A great movie.
Edward Norton as Pete Seeger.
Ed Norton as Pete Seeger. It was really good. But it just gets me more excited and whets my appetite for, I'm assuming, next Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Because I keep seeing these images of the filming of Deliver Me From Nowhere, the Bruce Springsteen biopic, starring the guy from The Bear, whose name escapes me. But he looks good. He looks good as Bruce. Bruce is on set a lot. There's a lot of pictures on Instagram of Bruce popping onto the set. They shot at the Stone Pony. They shot at the Meadowlands. It's basically, you know, my Jersey dreams come true. Like all the places that I want to see and hang out with Bruce. This guy gets to do it. All you have to do is be a gifted actor, cast as Bruce Springsteen. You get some pretty cool access.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that one too. And it's odd that, not odd, you're looking for the great story, and the great story for Bob Dylan was, it's everything leading up to him performing and playing electric at the Newport Folk Festival. Yeah. Springsteen, it's the making of Nebraska.
That's right.
It's not surprising. It's not Born to Run. For us diehards, we're like, this is fascinating. I'm wondering how the mainstream will be how much they'll be interested in that. So we'll see.
Right. I have the same curiosity. And I know, having experienced on a lighter level with the Dylan movie, walking out with my dad and brother and saying, well, you know, that didn't actually happen like that, you know, and I'm going to be that guy in the theater for the Bruce movie. Like, no, you know, my father's house was not recorded on January 3rd, 1982. It was actually separately recorded. It had a 30-second keyboard coda. Where's that? Yeah, so that'll be me.
You'll be that guy. Well, you are my guy when it comes to breaking down the American League Central and trying to make sense of sometimes the senseless. And we saw that with the White Sox. And I love your bold prediction. Let's make it come true. Speak it into existence. A winning record for the White Sox in April. You're coming back on the podcast in April, by the way. Like that is happening. And
if that happens, we're replaying this clip. Yeah, for sure.
Something tells me this clip, by the way, will be out in the social stratosphere very soon. This is the kind of thing that gets clicks, Anthony. This is the thing, and you know, we'll get a lot of impressions. You in January saying the White Sox will have a winning record.
Okay.
Well done.
Let's do it.
Okay. Anthony Castrovince, thank you so much. Hawk Harrelson, take it away.
All right, Art Chuck, this edition of the White Sox podcast is over.